Welcome back to the continuing adventures of the monad. In the last presentation, we finally got round to talking about how a disciple on a particular ray, in the example the first ray, set about building the Antahkarana using the ray-specific word of power. As it turned out, the use of such a word is no longer necessary. It is the projection of the concept behind the word that allows the disciple to make the final breakthrough and complete the rainbow bridge. What are the modalities that specifically apply to the disciple whose soul ray functions on the second ray of love and wisdom? Again, the first two stages of intention and visualization have to be carefully followed. This then leads to the disciple actioning the 4 stages of projection. Remember those? In case you have forgotten, they are 1. Calling in of the will along a soul ray. 2. The preservation of 3 lines of thought, which are A. The blending of the personality and the soul, B. The point of focus tension, and C. The awareness of the ray energy in its will aspect. The third stage is the projection of the soul-specific ray energy, and finally, 4, the use of the word of power. Once this is all done, the vivid light of the second ray, which is the most vivid of all lights on account of this being a second ray solar system, radiates out to the triadal light. We then reach the climax, where in a moment of intense concentration, the specific word of power of the second ray is pronounced. This word has a dual form, and the symbol is, I hope you are impressed. This symbol takes form in the mind of the disciple and signifies the assertion, I see the greatest light. What is this relating to? It is related to the central spiritual sun, and not the heart of the sun. In esoteric terminology, the sun has 3 aspects: the physical sun, the heart of the sun, and the central spiritual sun. The physical sun is the star at the center of the solar system that provides light and heat to the planets. This being itself is undergoing its own evolution. The heart of the sun is an aspect of the sun that refers to the solar logos. The central spiritual sun is outside our solar system altogether and refers to the unity of all beings as one in source. It can be likened to a sun in that it radiates power, love, and light throughout a system of multiple solar systems that rotate around it. Lawrence refers to this being as of whom naught may be said. Back to the building of the Antahkarana along the second ray energy. It is an attempt by the disciple, through intense effort, to see through the light a relationship to the whole. This is apparently one of the most intense experiences that a disciple can be subjected to. It is not a vision or even an aspiration to see a vision. It is complete sight, represented in Masonic tradition as the eye of God, or the all-seeing eye. The disciple comes to realize the light of divine countenance, of which the light of the soul is but a dim reflection. To this point, the disciple has learnt the significance of the solar and lunar light, expressed as soul and form light. But this is something altogether completely different. This is the great obliterating light of reality itself. It reveals the path of the higher lighted way, which leads to nirvana. The Antahkarana projected by the disciple is the first step along this way. It is difficult to make sense of the words of power because they are essentially the Word made flesh, or the soul in incarnation, which at this point are the registers of the power. Think of it as the symbol, which is the form aspect, and the power, which is the spirit aspect. Combined, they act as a great creative agency that is able to bridge all barriers and separative states of consciousness. This leads to complete unity. Certain vowels and consonants have been presented that represent these words of power. But there is no point in presenting any more, as even the ones presented are useless for us to know. What is more important is that we come to understand the significance, the concepts involved, and the meanings these word forms assume. It is only through concentrated thought and the comprehension of the meaning of these words that results can be achieved. Let us now look at the remaining words of power through this lens. Ray 3 represents active intelligence. A disciple functioning on this soul ray again goes through the stages of intention and visualization, and the 4 stages of projection. At the highest point of tension, the disciple utters the word of power for the 3rd ray. However, in this case, it is not easy for the disciple on the 3rd ray to achieve the necessary focal point of silence. Disciples on this ray have a very fluid mind, and many words flood their mental envelope. These words can be carried forward under the influence of glamour. This lessens the potency of the objective of what the disciple wishes to achieve. But when they succeed in achieving mental silence and an intelligent point of concentration, they use the word of power with great effectiveness. The challenge for these disciples is to use this word and not remain focused on the physical plane. They have a tendency to work on divine qualities focused through matter. The 2nd ray disciple tends to work through the concept of quality, and the 1st ray disciple through the positivity of spirit. But once 3rd ray disciples intuitively comprehend and factually grasp the concept that spirit matter is one reality and can sublimate this matter through themselves, they can divorce themselves from all that humanity understands about their relationship to form. 3rd ray disciples are now ready to utter the word of power that allows them to complete their identification with spirit via the Antahkarana. The word or concept that achieves this is purpose itself am I. Ponder that phrase for a while. What of the other 4 words of power, connected as they are to the remaining 4 rays of attribute? They are listed as Ray 4, which we know as harmony through conflict, has a word of power that has a meaning that expresses itself as 2 merge with 1. Ray 5, which we know as concrete knowledge or science, has a word of power that expresses itself as 3 minds unite. Ray 6, which we know as devotion or idealism, has a word of power that expresses itself as the highest light controls. Finally, Ray 7, which we know as ceremonial law and order, has a word of power that expresses itself as the highest and the lowest meet. In the case of Ray 5, the uniting of 3 minds refers to the blending of the universal mind, the higher mind, and the lower concrete mind projected through the Antahkarana. What can we conclude after examining all 7 words of power? They seem to all have the same objective. The first of these is to completely fuse all 3 aspects. Those aspects can be represented by aspects of mind and spirit, soul and persona, or the triadic structure itself. The second commonality is that the consciousness of this unity comes through the building and use of the bridge between the spiritual triad and the persona, that humble or not so humble being you call yourself. It is also worth noting that all 7 words of power, as we have come to know them through phrases, are based on knowledge leading to conviction. Remember the distinction between conviction and faith. Many schools of religion and occult thought have their own series of affirmations. They are but a distorted effort by humanity to arrive at an affirmative position. This is something that the blended soul and persona naturally assume. This is becoming more apparent to humanity as we enter the Aquarian age, where the old methods and aspirations are being replaced with a greater insight into the inner workings of each person. The answers are found within, not in ritual and grand buildings. Well, that is almost it for our study of the Antahkarana. If you have survived the ordeal up till now, don't leave. There is more to say about the final 3 stages of building the Antahkarana. The first 3 stages were concrete in their form. The last 3 stages were more abstract. It is worth examining them further. We will start by examining invocation and evocation in greater detail. This particular stage is worth examining in greater detail, as it will condition consciously and exoterically the New World religion. Up until now, this process has been esoteric and unconscious. See you in the next presentation. Thank you.